The United States apparel demand is down by 78%. It's definitely a crisis situation. In a crisis situation, you have to figure out, what do I do today, right? There's a very pressing urge to make sure that you just survive day to day. Well, one of the ways we tried to answer this was to look at the garment sector in Cambodia. And we were looking at factors that contributed to the survival and resilience of firms, especially going through the global financial crisis. Factories that were able to invest in improved working conditions along a number of different categories were found to be more resilient, and they were able to increase their chances of survival. We're finding consistent evidence that those investments do pay off. The logic is straightforward. You have lower absenteeism, higher worker output, and you have basically lower turnover, right? Having these positive relationships with their managers within the factories doesn't cost you more money, but it does really improve the workers' loyalty and energy in terms of willingness to work.
We have to purchase the raw materials that we use during our production at least 6 months before we receive any payment. We then have a month to turn it around. And once we finish that, then it spends a month in transit getting to its destination. Once the goods arrive at destination, they're put in a warehouse. And our customers are allowed to call off the goods for a 3-month period. Our raw material suppliers, by the way, we pay a month after we receive the goods. Unstable market demand really is a fact of life in this industry. Our revenue, you can think of it like a faucet. When our goods are sitting in a warehouse waiting to be called off, when there's more market demand, that faucet, the water flows a little more freely. And when there's contractions in that market demand, our revenue flows is a little tighter. And what happens when you have a global pandemic and demand drops by 78%? Well, that faucet is effectively turned off overnight and your revenue is gone. That faucet getting turned off happened in March. But from January already, we were struggling to fill orders because we couldn't get any of our raw materials. So our cash position was already incredibly tight because we couldn't get orders out. We couldn't get goods into those warehouses.
So before we're doing this plan, we communicate with the union and we deliver a very clear message because we need to work together to go through this tough moment. So we got their cooperate together so they can explain to the workers. Then we can have the better result.
The crisis does create an opportunity now, because you're shutting down, because you're cutting back, to really rethink about the longer run and what type of investments might be important in the future to be ready when it starts picking up. The other thing I would really like to highlight that does resonate with my own research is Kim's focus on what we would call in academia as moving up the value chain. So what is the solution for the small and medium-sized factories? Well, you can take advantage of your size and that flexibility that even Kim had mentioned, and being able to do more customized orders, do more direct marketing. How can you tap into those online sales as a way to rethink your business model and add value? I think that's absolutely critical.
Equal partnership is integral to being able to go forward, and we need to come forward and we need to work together, because a lot of times now, especially small to medium players, we're pitted against one another. We actually have the same interests. There's a lot of scope for collaboration among suppliers.
I think the first thing I heard here was about communication, whether it's social dialogue, whether it's with workers, whether it's with brands, whether it's industry federations, et cetera, et cetera. For the voice of the supplier, for the voice of the producer to be heard. Most importantly, for those producers to be able to work together, moving up the value chain, which is how economists or academics talk about companies being able to play a greater role than simply producing something for someone, but being involved in the product development.
Yeah, I think it's going to be increasingly difficult to be overlooking sustainability issues in the future.
I think the automation will be accelerated.
I hope that there will be a shift towards equal partnership, and I think at a conceptual level, it's starting to see your supply chain as an asset worth investing in rather than a liability to be minimized. I hope that the focus will also be on the rules that govern and drive brand decision making. And I hope that there will be some serious attention on reforming purchasing practices.